change of estates, what are they? Why are they important? How do you find them in the market? Do they appear often in the market? All those questions, I'll be answering them in this video. I'm not going to make it too long, straight to the point. I'll show you what a change of estate is, how you find them, some strategies that you can use them in the market that you can start using tomorrow on New York Open and catch some nice profits. So let's get right into it. So first, change of estates are honestly so important to know in the market, but you cannot just trade them because you see a change of estate. You have to have a confluence, which means you have to do a top-down analysis. So, for example, say this is the 1 minute time frame, we see this change of a state happen. On, let's say, the 15-minute time frame, we want to see a fair value gap get placed. So we see a fair value gap gets placed on the 15-minute. Now we're saying, okay, we're going to go down. Let's try to find an entry point. Entry point. Now we come down to the 1 minute and we look for a change of a state. So, change of a state, what is it? How do you find them? So, for example, we have a little downtrend right here. Two red candles going down. Now, this was our previous high. Now, what we want to do is we look for a break. The second we see a break, one, two green candles, we break it, and now this is not the higher high anymore. This is a higher low. This is our higher high. Once this becomes our higher high, that means on the last push of green candles, our change of a state is right over here, right under this candle, not the wick, the body. So just before a candle breaks and forms a new higher high, that break of that push is going to be the change of a state. For example, right here, break, push, makes a new higher high, change of a state right here. Now what we want to do is we wait for a buy side liquidity gets swept, because if you don't know already, all here is a bunch of people that have their buy stops, sell stops, and it's just a very big liquidity pool. So everyone gets triggered into here, all the traders, all the bankers, so forth, etc. You know what I'm talking about. They all get triggered into here, which pushes the stock back down. Then when we see this change of a state line get broken, we often take our trade right away, or we can wait for a retest, which gives it a higher probability that we are going to continue downward and profit our margins. Now that I give you a little example, let's hop into the charts and show you some real life examples. So what do we see over here? We have an uptrend over here to a downtrend. What can we pull out of here? So first thing, when we look at a chart like this, we want to mark out the lows. So for example, we have a low right over here. We broke past it. We have a low over here. Again, we broke past it. So far, this was a pretty strong downtrend, but we have a low right over here. And what's happening over here? It's a little sell side liquidity. The second we came in, we swept it, and now we're pushing higher. Not only that, do you see anything else? Of course, we have a inversion fair value gap. So now we already swept the liquidity, broke past it, came back into our sell side liquidity, back into our zone. On top of it, we also made an inversion fair value gap. So these are already two confluences. We're like, okay, this is definitely gonna go up. Now what we want to do is we hop on to the lower time frame. We're at the 15-minute before. Now we're going to the 1 minute. Now we want to look for our change of a state strategy so we can jump into the market. Now what do we have? Okay, so we have this sell side liquidity over here once again get taken. So like, okay, now this is starting to look good. Maybe, and now before we get any further, where are we going to put our change of a state? Do you know? It's going to be right here. Why is it going to be here? Because this was our last candle that pushed down to break. So now we go and we wait for a full body candle close. We're going to take our entry from the candle close right there. And we're going to take our standard deviation. By the way, stop loss goes right below the previous low. Standard deviation from the end of the manipulation to the start of the manipulation. Now we look for our -2. And how does our -2 line up? We can honestly push for a -2.5, but for this strategy, we'll just explain it like this words. Now let's see how we're gonna go. Right away, we pass right past this -1, very strong breakthrough. Let's see how we go. Right to this -2. So there you go. That's a perfect example. Always do a top-down analysis. You can't just use a change of a state just because you see it in the market. There has to be a confluence telling you reasoning why we want to go in this direction, and it's an entry model in the intended direction from the higher time frame. So let's give a second example. So what do we see over here? We have a very strong support zone right down here, also known as a sell side liquidity. So we see that this is a very strong uptrend. Now we're starting to come down. So let's see, maybe we can sweep this and we can continue upward. Let's hop down to the 1 minute time frame, see what's happening down here, and maybe a possible sweep and an entry. So let's see what we have. We're going very nice sweep. That's nice to see. Now we're starting to come back up. So what do you see over here? We have a sell side liquidity getting swept right here. So that's a big sweep with a very strong push. Now, where are we going to put our change of a state? Well, we have 4 downward candles. The first candle for the new lower low is going to go right here. This becomes our change of a state. Now, what do? We wait for the break. Second, we see a break happen. Then we take our entry, which is going to be right over here. So right here is our break. Let's just go backwards over here. There's our first break. Now what do? Also, actually, before we do our entry, what else do we see over here? A inversion fair value gap. I really hope you saw that because this is also another confluence to tell you that we are going to continue upwards. Now we take our standard deviation from the start of the manipulation right to the beginning. We're going to take our entry. Stop loss is going to go right below the last low. Take profit can go right at -2 or right at this previous little high over here. So let's see how we go. Pretty strong past this -1. Let's see if we can take our partials right at this previous high. A little bit of consolidation, and there we go. That's our profit taken. Now, don't forget you can also target the -2, -2.5, but it is a bit riskier. But if you do have a very strong move, that of course is always your final take profit. So I really hope you understood this video, like how I was trying to explain it. If you don't, maybe I'll make another video on it. Try to go a bit more in depth into the strategy. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, let me know in the comments, share it with your friends, and yeah, hope you have an amazing day.